What can this make again?
All right, here we go. So basically, Gav, you know, everyone knows the Gav or Gavin
I know.
in our community here. Mm.
Oh
So
god.
hold on, let me raise his volume just a little bit so y'all can hear
No.
him. There we
No.
go. So
No.
basically, he's failing miserably at starting an aircraft and setting the flight plane up. So we're gonna do a tutorial of all of that, starting from cold and dark here. You know, we're gonna go over here to this nice little tablet, get some ground power, get some chocks set so we don't roll away if our parking brake isn't properly set. You know, that type of stuff. Well, next up, well, it's pitch black in here, so let's probably turn on the power and get some lighting in here, you know? So we're gonna go get that battery switch. It's labeled off, bat, and on. You're gonna flip it to on. Cover that cap down, you know, so you don't flip it to off by accident. Then you should see something in big bright text labeled GRD power available. That's ground power. Flip that switch to on. It's down, not up. I can't believe I'm making this. You'd probably want to turn those hydraulic pumps on. Get those packs to automatic, you know, on the side here. Turn your isolation valve to automatic as well. You're probably never going to touch that ever again while it's on automatic. The only thing you'll touch is the packs. Get that APU bleed to on so you don't have to worry about it later when you start your APU, because you need that for engine start. I like to have engine start set to both for ignition, so yeah. And anytime you're preparing to leave, you need your anti-collision and wing lights on for pushback, but like, these should be on by default. These are like the exterior lights that like are for the aircraft and airline to know about, you know? Those should just be on. I don't know why people leave those off half the time. And then, if you even want to get close to starting the APU, because he already tried starting the APU without even turning the fuel pumps on. Turn all 4 fuel pumps on. Technically, you only need this first one here for the APU, but I turn all 4 of them on. And when you're starting the engines, sometimes that fuel level can be a little bit awkward from both tanks, so usually I just turn on the crossfeed to solve that problem. Now obviously you can't leave the gate without the fasten seatbelt sign and the no smoking sign, so put those on automatic. Now this has by far been the funniest mistake he's made. So, obviously you need your max altitude set and your land altitude set, minimum altitude. And it obviously needs to be on automatic here, because this is your air pressurization system. You're going to go up here, make sure that trim air is on. If you take off, you ain't going to get a pressurized cabin. Go too high, you're going to have problems. Turn up that brightness. I don't like the darkness here. We'll even go get some dome lights. Service interphone to on. Oh yeah, it's so much better in here, isn't it? It's a lot brighter. Uh-huh. I'll go check chat, see how people are doing as they jump in here, as I quickly go through brightening this cockpit.
Oh no.
Oh no what? Hey Silva. So I usually just go squawk 1200, especially if I'm not on VATSIM, which is, of course, everyone's favorite thing, VATSIM. You'll have a client like this one for VATSIM. Basically lets you talk on our radio frequency here. You know, detects aircraft position, all that stuff, current squawk code, all that stuff, you know, all that neat stuff. It's fun. I do that all the time. You could go check them out. That's how you will also get your ATIS information normally, as well as anything else like actual requests of some sort, I guess. Now, you might have noticed the computer isn't showing what it's supposed to show. There's an easy way to fix that. So, normally I come to this screen second, but I'm going to put it on that screen first. You're going to click Init Reference, this top left button here. Let me zoom in on it so you don't get confused. You click that button, and it will be on a page that looks like this. You're going to want to leave it on this page for now. You're going to go up to the overhead panel. Back away if you need to. Don't zoom in like crazy on a bolt. You know, you got to get up here. And you find 2 IRS switches. You're going to flip both of them to nav, but be careful because if you flip it to ATT, you got to reset it back to off and wait a minute or two for the light to go out. Like this. You accidentally set it, now you got to reset it. You got to wait for that light to go out, that align light, and then you can reset it back to nav. Since I know Gav had to do this like 8 times already, and he kept trying to figure out why it wouldn't work. You got to wait for that light to turn off. Sometimes it takes a minute or two. We're just going to sit here until that light goes out. There we go. Flip it to nav.
This tutorial's gonna get over 100 views, and it's just gonna be me watching it every time I want to start a 7:30.
Okay, now they're both on online. You're going to come down here. You'll see there's a new box here that says Set IRS Position. You're going to click this Next Page button right here, just above the number pad, and it should go to a page that looks like this. Now, if something's occupying this little space here, like Enter IRS Heading, go to the bottom here and click Clear. So you don't have to worry about it. And then you need to copy this. No, not by doing it the excruciating way of typing it out like Gav tried doing. No, you gotta copy it by pressing the button to the left of it. Click Previous Page right here. And then paste it on the right side button right there. And the computer system will, look at that. It's set up. What do you know? Now, obviously, you have your certain preferences. I like to turn on the weather. I call this one station. I don't know what that actually is supposed to be. Waypoint, airport, data, and position. Terrain, I leave it for the other monitor. On this monitor, I don't turn on the weather. I turn on what I call station. I call waypoint, airport, data, position, and terrain on that one for the co-pilot seat. Now, normally you'll only get your squawk code when you're getting ready for pushback, because that's usually how their clearance does it. Usually because I'm moving very quick. But for now, I'm going to turn it on. To turn it on, you're not going to turn it to ALT on. That's not on. You got to flip it to TARA right here. Okay? And make sure it's set properly to the right code. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that there's like 6 different panels with numbers on them that all look like radios. They're not. There's only 2 radios here. There's COM 1, which is this, and we got COM 2 over here. Usually I leave COM 2 for ATIS. COM 1's the main one I usually talk to ATC on, or Unicom. Unicom's 122.8, as you can see on the standby. The active is the one that's active. You can only change the standby, and when you're ready, you can flip it with this switch. Now, the second one is the one that you would use for the localizer or ILS approach. That's basically the localizer frequency. So, like, if I go to, I guess, say I want to do an ILS approach for a random runway at a random airport. So let's go over here. So, I believe it was, let's do this one, because this is a familiar airport to me. Let's say I wanted to land on runway 18 center via ILS. The ILS frequency for that runway is 111.30. Now it also tells us the course heading is 184. That's important because that would go here. 184. I'm doing it the wrong way, but whatever. There we go.
Oh my god.
So 184. Now, you notice that there's a second one, and it didn't set the second one. That's because you have to do it manually. I know, it's crazy. Oh, did I tell you that both of the nav ones also have to be set manually? Just because I set this one to that doesn't mean that this one's set. You gotta figure out. You gotta change it. You gotta set the numbers properly, you know? They gotta be the same on both sides. Both the course and the frequency. That only applies to the ILS, not the radios. The ILS, okay? Hopes that makes sense. Now, before you even think about starting your APU, shut the cabin door.
I've not done that. Even worse, I left the boarding door open.
Oh god. You're just digging yourself a grave now. Right now. You're literally saying this. They can hear you.
I know. I'm aware. That's why I said that.
Is that why you're hearing yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
And your stream delay is like 1 second, which is awesome.
That's on purpose. So once you got pretty much all of that done, you can go ahead and turn on something that's going to be important for flying the plane. The Yaw Damper.
Oh, I've been forgetting that.
It makes things so much easier. Trust me. Trust me when I say that. It just makes it a lot easier. Think of it as almost flight limits in VR chat's flight sim worlds. I don't know. Think of it like that. I don't know. It makes things so much easier though.
I can still roll the aircraft though, so I've tested it.
Right, now we're gonna get to the part where we're gonna start our, well, actually, we're not gonna start the APU, because we still got the flight plan to do. So let's go over here. We're at Washington Dulles today. Well, tonight. Where's the outside? There's the outside. Beautiful. So, Washington Dulles is going to be KIAD, that's Kilo India Alpha Delta. Just because I'm going to use this one for reference, I may as well do it. It's going to be Charlotte. Kilo Charlie Lima Tango, KCLT. And, well, the call sign I've always used is this one. Yours is probably going to be different. Probably. It's not like there's several, like, aircraft with the identical call sign. That's probably a problem if there is. Anyways, let's go ahead and set this up, shall we? We obviously want to configure the numbers first. So we're going to do our ground weight, and then there's a bunch of numbers that we can't fill in yet. So let's go do our flight plan. We're going to go over here like normal, create a new flight. We're going to zoom in a lot so everyone can read. It says airline with 3 Z's right here under flight info. You're going to put whatever the code is for your airline. American Airlines is AAL, Alpha Alpha Lima. And obviously mine's 1992, so let's go with that one. You're going to set up your departure airport and your arrival airport. It will determine an alternate airport automatically for you. This is very important to write down. I usually use Volanta for it. I'm assuming that's Nas that's in the chat now, who said hi. So, hello, Nas. I'm sorry if that's not Nas. I apologize. So then you're going to click on the airframe option and select the aircraft you're flying. Mine is the 737-800, so I type B738 and it comes up immediately. So I can just press enter and it shows up. It sets up properly. Now we're going to scroll down a little bit. It's going to give us our route right here and the current AIRAC cycle. The AIRAC cycle has to do with the FMC version. Usually you shouldn't have to worry about the number. Usually you want to worry about the routing. Like you want to look at these two and these two. The first two and last two of your entire route. If I had a longer route, it would make more sense to see. Like this one. If I selected this one, the only two I would really be concerned about is these two and these two. This is your SID, a transition. This is your star, and another transition. And this is your mid-flight. You don't really worry about your mid-flight. You only worry about the start and end of it. So anyways, let's go back to that other plan that I've flown before. Because I'm not in the mood to learn a new plan for this flight. So, we're going to click Generate Flight now. Oh, before you click Generate Flight, what I did, you're supposed to check if you even have that star or that SID. So you check KIAD. I know this airport. I know my aircraft has it. Scram 6, right there. And the arrival, I think it was Chesley. Let me check. Yeah, Chesley. I have the Chesley, except I have a more modern version of it, as you can tell. The number means nothing. It doesn't matter if the number matches. This is Chesley 4, and my aircraft has Chesley 5. It don't matter. But we're not clicking anything just yet. We need to set up the aircraft's stuff the numbers, you know? So you're on a page that looks like this, kind of, when you get here. So it's going to have a lot of information displayed. The only important things is your routing, the block fuel, and the cruise altitude here. Those are the only things that you're actually going to worry about right now. So let's go ahead and put in that cruise altitude. It says flight level 340. Personally, I don't put the FL into the FMC here like this. I don't bother with that because usually that causes issues, but sometimes it doesn't. I just go ahead and put straight in the number. So 340, and we click on that cruise altitude spot, and it puts it in fine.
Don't tell me Blue's gonna have to come save everyone.
Now, I don't usually bother with reserve tanks, because I usually have more than enough fuel. So I just put 0.0 right there in the reserves. And on our planned fuel, you gotta translate this to tons. It's kilograms. Simple. This is approximately, probably, well, actually, I'm probably gonna add a couple extra, but I'm gonna go with 9 jeez, God. You know what, we'll go 6.9 tons of fuel. That's fine. Then we gotta get cost index, cruise wind, and temperature. We gotta scroll on down the page, and you'll find a huge paperwork preview that is like several pages long, contains a lot of important information, all of which is unimportant to us. We're only going to concern our cost index, which is located right here on the first page, labeled with a CI and then a number right after it. So our cost index is 11 today. We're going to put in 11 right there. We're not executing yet. We're going to finish the page before we click execute. Now we're going to look for our wind. It says cruise wind in the cockpit, but that's not what it actually is. It's called average wind right here, AVG wind. So it's right here, 234 over 54. This is basically heading 234. It's basically telling you the direction of the wind and the speed of the wind. So what you're going to do, 234 degrees at, what was it, 54 knots. And when you plug that in, it should look like that. If that's the same number that you're going to have, it's probably a different number. I mean, most of these numbers aren't even going to be the same, but your screen should look somewhat similar now. Now we're going to go look for that temperature. That temperature isn't located on the front page. You got to scroll down a little bit until you find specifically flight log. Once you find it, you'll see that there's an OAT section, and you'll see that there is waypoints listed here on the side. So from the flight log, coming from top down, you want to find the first waypoint, which is going to be your SID, Scram 6 right here, and you want to match it with the OAT list here. It should be either a positive or negative number. The way you know it's negative is it will have an M in front of it. M25. That says minus 25. We got a negative 25 on our temperature. We're going to type negative 25 on our OAT, the temperature. And you're going to put it in the OAT slot, not the dev slot, the OAT slot. So you're going to click right there to the right of that, and it's going to plug it in the Fahrenheit slot and automatically calculate the rest for you. Now you can click execute. Then you're going to go to N1 limit. You're going to realize there's absolutely nothing you need to do here. Ignore that blink at the top left. You're going to click takeoff. And depending on your flight, your flaps can vary, but most flights that are like within the country, like not overseas travel, I usually just use flaps 10. Just going to be flat out with you. And now it says CG, and it's a percentage. Now, where do I get a percentage? Well, that's your mass, your aircraft's weight balance. So you're going to go over here to your payload. You're obviously going to make sure you have enough fuel for your flight first before you write down these numbers. And then you're going to go look here where it says TOW. This is takeoff weight. And it says CG. So, and it's a big old percentage here. So that matches all the descriptors. Pick that number right there. It's 23.3 for me. It's probably going to be different for you. And you're going to plug it in right there. 23.3. 0.3, and you're going to plug it in right there. Now, it will give you a value for trim. Now, a lot of people look at this and they're like, oh, it's fine, and then they ignore it and move on. That's not how you do it. The trim wheel is right here. You gotta trim it to whatever number that is. I'm pretty sure 3 is the minimum on this thing, so I only trim to 3. I don't go below that because then it's outside the takeoff limits. So we're gonna trim that to 3. Past it just a little. You know what? Let's go forward just a little anyway. Why not? That's fine. Now, before you pick your V1 speeds and whatnot, because it's going to deny your V1 speeds if you start putting in your route afterward, you're going to put in your route. Of course, if you already got clearance. Otherwise, you're going to be talking to clearance for a little bit first. So we're going to go over here. We decided that we were going to be departing on the Scram 6 Glank transition. But we don't know what runway we're departing on because we're not on VATSIM right now. We're not looking at VATSIM's ATIS. So what can we do? Well, SimBrief has a 1-to-1 ATIS. So you're going to scroll down past the paperwork and you'll see weather and NOTAMs. There's an ATIS list for the departure, arrival, and your alternate airport all right here for you. You just got to click to show it. It'll show MEDAR, which contains all the information in a short burst, which I can read it very well. This is your altimeter. Altimeter 3011. But we're not going to bother looking at that. I'm pretty sure one of these is the wind. I don't remember which one. And this says overcast. So let's look at the ATIS here. So shows current time, altimeter right here, a bunch of other stuff. Shows what approaches are functional ILS approach for 19 left, 19 center, and 19 right. Departing runways, 30. Well, we know what runway we're using today. We can just plug in 30 right there. That's the only available runway for departures from what I'm seeing. Runway 1 right is also available. Approach lights are down for that runway too. Okay. Seems about right. Shows a bunch of NOTAMs that we're not going to bother with. We only wanted the altimeter and the runway number. So let's go ahead and set that number in for the altimeter. So your altimeter is this number here. This basically also counts for the air pressure in the aircraft, so you want to set this properly. By default, it's 29 or 9 or 2. It's never always correct. So we're going to go over here on the upper panel here where that button STD is. We're going to flip that upper knob until we get 3011 on the display right here. So we're going to zoom out a little so we can see it, and we're going to rotate this knob until it hits 3011. There. Now you might think that was all you needed to do. No, it's not. There's 3 of them. There's one in the center, and there's one on the co-pilot side as well. So you gotta set all of these individually. And for those of you who don't understand where the STD button is on the center display, you gotta click right in the middle of this thing, and it will turn it to standardized mode. That's how you turn standardized mode on this one. You can toggle it back and forth. This one's a toggle. The other ones, once you're on it, you can set a new value that you want it to return to, like so. If I can show you properly. Oh god. There we go. It will display what it will set to when you're done with it, and when you turn off standardized mode, it will go straight to that value. Anyways, let's return it to 3011 since that's the current altimeter. Same thing on the co-pilot side. It's really not that hard. Before you even think about starting your APU, turn the flight director on. That's an important one. I usually set my max bank angle to 30 degrees because I've had to make some steep turns on my climb out before. Now, if you're on VATSIM, they'll give you a specific altitude they want you to climb to on departure, which at this airport is usually 3,000. Sometimes it's 5,000. So you'll set that altitude in here, But if you're offline, you can just set it to your cruise altitude, to be honest. I don't actually remember what I set that to, so let me go double check. It was over here. It's 340 for the flight level, so that's 34,000 feet. We're going to go back over here. We're going to set up our arrival. We're going to expect runway 18 left for the ILS. And it's going to be Chesley 5 arrival, Lynchburg transition. The way I know this is because it's on my routing. If I scroll all the way up, routing, Scram 6 departure, Glenn transition, direct to Lynchburg transition, and then the Chesley 4 arrival. The number doesn't matter again, remember that. Now, this transition is optional. The transition from your arrival star to the runway arrival is interesting. Sometimes it can be horrible, sometimes it can be good. This is an optional. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. It really depends on the airport you're going to. That's why when you're done setting everything you want to do, you go to your legs, check everything out. If you're on single player, get rid of all the vectors. If you're on VATSIM, leave the vectors in because they're probably going to tell you turn left or turn right, heading whatever. Get rid of any discontinuities in your route and basically understand where stuff is. Then activate it when you're done with that. This sometimes will pop up, insufficient fuel or unable for cruise altitude. Ignore those because actually you guarantee you have enough fuel. I can guarantee you. That number sometimes likes to screw at you. Sometimes it shows that error, sometimes it doesn't for the insufficient fuel. I have no idea why. I could never find out why. So now we're going to go investigate it. So we got to go into planning mode. How do you do that? Well, over here there's a button for a knob for map and plan mode. You're going to switch it to plan. And you'll notice your map changed. Now, you could either zoom in or zoom out using the same knob here that we always see here for the numbers of range. I accidentally just changed that, didn't I? Oops.
Hello, Kevin.
Good day.
Hi. So, I usually leave it on 10 the entire time.
Out.
And I go step by step looking at the nav. Is this waypoint okay? Is that waypoint okay? And I just go through it the entire way, nice and slow, understanding where it's going, where it came from. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Seems fine. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to get to a point where something stupid happens. Okay, everything looks good on this route, so we're going to turn it back to map mode. We don't need to modify it at all, or add an extra transition. So we're going to leave it on the legs page here, because we're ready to go.
Norton, do you have the learning helper on because you don't know how to turn it off, or...?
And now
Yeah,
comes
it
the
should
fun
there.
stuff. Now comes the fun stuff, guys. So
You can
now
turn that off in the options.
we're gonna go ahead and start up the APU. You're
It's
gonna
not
hold it on the start area
I still don't know
for
how to
3
play it, but
seconds
it's
and
fine.
let go.
It's fine.
You gotta switch it to on first, then hold it on start for 3 seconds exactly. After that,
What is...
let it return to the on position
dead
and
guy.
don't do anything again. You gotta give it
Blue,
some
what do you-
time and you'll watch the EGT go up and the low oil pressure check happen. You're supposed
What are
to
you-
also
Blue, what are
check a
you
couple
doing?
things over here.
Arriving?
Not
Okay.
up here, sorry. Down here, for the APU, you gotta switch those to the sides to check that those are working, and you gotta check over here for faults and fire.
Blue, what are you doing?
Don't worry
Tutorial for me about because I'm incompetent.
He
and
failed
don't
so badly
know
that Blue had to go make a tutorial.
on how to fly a 737-800.
about it. This should go to between 6 and 10, somewhere around
It
here.
is
I think it's
cold
closer
in
to
my
8
room.
and 9, probably. And then it will return dramatically down to like 4 or 6 or something, I don't remember. And when the APU is finally running, the APU generator light will come on right here, telling you to switch to APU power.
And don't be like me and wait and switch it before that light comes on, and then shut your entire aircraft down.
So now that it's on, we switch those both, not just one. Don't touch the other switches. Don't touch any of them, not even the ground power switch. You might think it's on still. It's off. Don't worry. The aircraft
find it funny that
automatically
Blue
turns it
has to
off when you
specify.
change to this. The same thing will apply when you start your engines. You'll turn on the engine generators and not worry about turning off the APU ones, okay? I can't stress that enough. Man literally went around here flipping all of the switches to off, thinking it would do something, and then accidentally flipped one of them to on and screwed up everything.
He's right.
Oh, man.
I'm gonna make sure this video gets 100 views just from me.
Oh, gosh. We got 2 people looking at it right now, so... You already got
I'm one
someone.
of them. I'm one of them.
Right. Anyway. So, I'm pretty sure the boarding door is already closed. That is very buggy.
The boarding gate? Or the
So, the jetway's right here up against me, but if I look out the window, I see the tip of my wing. Something doesn't seem right about that.
Yeah, I think it's
Alright, whatever. So, let's go ahead and get rid of that jetway. Because I'm using a special type of jetway plugin, this one doesn't go away when I tell it to go away. The way I tell it to go away is by releasing the parking brake, which I can only do if I remove the chocks, obviously. We can turn off ground power. So I release the parking brake, and it goes away, and I reset the parking brake, and it's still going away. That's great. It won't come back anymore until I decide to shut my APU off or something. I don't know. I'd have to move the plane. Probably. So, now that we're ready to go, we're going to go ahead and call the tug. You know, it's really simple.
Ground a cockpit. Please show me
And
where
be
you
sure
want to
you
go.
know which way to face before you do it, because you don't want to face the wrong way and then realize you have to pull a 3-point turn somewhere over here to go back the complete opposite way to get to runway 30, which is down here. If I can get to it, it's pretty far. Anyway,
Isn't this the airport we
Ground a
originally
cockpit.
took off
Tow
from?
is
I
driving.
normally take off from that airport. Yeah. This is the airport I most commonly fly out of.
Nice.
So you'll see our casual tug driver come over here. He's gonna hook up over here to the aircraft, and while he's doing that, you might finish up a couple things over here. Like getting the anti-collision lights on and turning the packs off to get ready for engine startup. That would be his phone, Gav's phone.
Yes. Unfortunately.
Now, normally when I start the engines, I want to get these engines on and running fast. So I'll do something that's a little bit risky. I wouldn't recommend doing it. So the way I do it, I turn
Okay.
the
all
left
doors
side
and exits are
hydraulic
closed.
pumps
Ready to
off.
connect.
I turn the left side hydraulic pumps off. Now, that's extremely risky because if they're off for too long, they cause issues.
They do.
But while they're off, and you're starting the right engine, engine 2, the engine starts like 1,000 times faster than it normally does. So, you usually see me disable this and start the engines really fast, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm not going to disable these. I'm going to leave them running as they should be. The only thing that you need to disable are your 2 packs, your left pack and your right pack. Turn them off,
So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
and then the tug driver will tell you to release your parking brake. You'll do that,
Starting
and you'll go
pushback.
up to here on the engine start switch. You're going to go to engine 2 over here. Switch it to GRD. And I mean GRD as in ground, not continuous. Ground. Yes, Gavin somehow got ground and continuous confused. So then you're going to watch this panel and watch that number rise, the N2 for engine number 2. When it hits 25, flip it from cutoff to idle, and the engine will properly start. So on some aircraft, it's a big old lever, a white lever that you gotta pull all the way up there close to the throttle. On this aircraft that I'm using, it's literally a switch. And then once this returns to the off position, switch it to continuous and turn on the generator. Then you're going to repeat the same process for engine number 1. You're going to sit here and watch as engine 1 starts. And then you're going to wait for that number to hit 25. And then we'll do the exact same thing, which is to flip this switch to idle. That's basically the fuel cutoff switch. If it's in the cutoff position, the engine isn't getting fuel, and you're going to risk damaging the engine if it's on the starter position. So you don't want to keep it running at 25 N2 for too long. So then, both engines should now be running. You're going to put in continuous and turn the generator on. Now you'll notice the APU light came back on. Don't worry about this. Don't flip any of these switches. You're going to go down to the APU down here and flip it to off. And that light should go out. The APU is still running, but that's because it's shutting down, as you can clearly tell by the EGT dropping back down to 0 over a period of time. Leave it alone. Don't bother, even if you see the exhaust smoke coming out of the back of the aircraft still. That's because the APU is shutting off.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
And I'm not kidding when I tell you that. The APU takes some time to shut off. Now he told us to set our parking brake. Let's go ahead and do that.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Now that we have both our engines running and we're using engine power, we're going to go turn our packs back on. We're going to turn on our anti-ice. Specifically the anti-ice. The wing anti-ice will automatically cut off during flight. Do not worry about that. Once it turns off, it doesn't need to be turned back on. Now, you're going to turn your probe heats on. All of those switches. Don't touch that test switch. It usually breaks something. At least it did the last time I used it, but I'm going to play with it right now just to show you. There we go.
Ooh, that broke something.
Yeah, I don't think I can restore that, can I?
Oh, crap!
Oh, wait, I can. That's how you do it. I forgot.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Tow is disconnected and bypassed and has been removed.
So then we're going to test a couple more things here before we get going. We're going to test our slats
Thunderstorms
and flaps. Those look fine to me.
This is bad.
So, the flaps are the back ones, the yellow ones at the top, and the slats are the green ones. The slats are the front of the wing, the flaps are the back of the wing. For those of you who didn't understand that if I go flaps full, you don't see these flaps move on the front of the aircraft wing. Those are slats. Meanwhile, these are flaps. Can we tell the difference now?
Always know the difference.
Anyways, for departure, we want flaps 10, not flaps 40. So let's go ahead and set flaps 10. Flaps 10 is selected. And it may give you a TAI on above 10 degrees Celsius warning. Just clear it. Don't bother with it. It's not important.
Oh no.
Now you'll notice how pitch black it is outside. Well, maybe it's because you forgot to turn your taxi lights on. Now, when it's this dark, sometimes I recommend turning the dome lights to dim instead of bright. Now, careful, because the first position is off, and then dim. Now you have dim lights. Look at that. You can see quite a bit better outside now, can't you? So, the cabin lights are manually controlled. I already dimmed them for the purpose of pushback. You'll find them in the ground services under cabin lighting. I usually set it to night/sleep and white medium for the entry area. Specifically, on any flight, the moment I get moving, I'm gonna turn all those lights off because I don't bother with lighting the cabin at all during flights. Anyways, so now that we got all that stuff covered, we're gonna set up over here our RTO. Basically, this is for aborting takeoff. If you have to abort your takeoff roll, it will apply braking automatically for you. The only thing that you have to do is bring your thrust to idle and put the reverse thrust on, and the brakes will automatically deploy, And the speed brake should automatically deploy as well, according to those auto brakes on the RTO setting. On any other setting, like 1, 2, or 3, or max for landing, you have to arm it manually by pulling it slightly back to the armed position, and you'll know it's armed when the speed brake armed light is active. It's currently not active. I didn't arm it right. There we go. Or maybe not. Huh. I don't think it wants me to arm it right now. That's probably why. It's probably freaking out. Because I can deploy it fully if I wanted to. Yeah. Because I could deploy it. It's deployed. Now, before we get moving, there's a couple more tests we gotta run over here. We obviously gotta listen to our system, make sure stuff is working fine. You know, we gotta check our airspeed warning. Stall. Specifically the stick shake. Sounds like they're fine. Then we gotta go down here. We gotta check our Gpws callouts, basically the ground proximity warning system.
Pull up.
It will also put displays.
Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear.
Make sure
Terrain.
everything comes
Terrain.
as it should be.
Pull up. Obstacle. Obstacle. Pull up. Airspeed low.
And keep in mind, the speed warning test and stall warning test are on the overhead panel fairly far back up here next to the flight recorder. And the Gpws callout system is right behind the co-pilot's steering wheel, just to the right of the co-pilot's FMC right here. There's a system test button, SYS test, this black button here. Anyways. Then you're going to test if you have oxygen, for if you lose pressurization mid-flight. It's this button right here. You're going to hold it down for a second and let go. Should have made that sound. If it didn't, you have problems. There's another test switch over here that you can use for nitrogen. It's pretty interesting, because I don't bother with nitrogen. Don't know what you would need it for in a pressurized cabin. But it is fine. Now that we seem to be ready, let's go ahead and check our controls, you know, free the controls a little bit, you know. We're gonna full left, full right roll, yaw left, which is the rudder, and right rudder. Seems like it works fine. Let's go ahead and check our pitch. We're gonna zoom in on that vertical stabilizer, so when we pull up, it should, oh yeah, it moves in the right direction, right? Pitching down, it works fine as well. Seems like we're ready to go. Now all that's left is a brake test. You know, you gotta check your brakes here. You're gonna apply a little bit of thrust to get moving. You should start rolling, you'll notice that. And then when you're ready, you just tap the brakes, see if you stop, see if you slow down at all. If you don't, there's a problem. And you should definitely apply the parking brake immediately. But sometimes my brake tests don't work very well, so I apply a little bit more thrust, and I apply heavy braking. And it works fine, as you can clearly tell. My brakes are fine, so let's go. You'd get taxi clearance, obviously, before leaving a non-movement area. Some gates are located in non-movement areas, other gates aren't. This gate that I was at is in a non-movement area. You'll know because there's a hold point on either section of the taxiway. Basically means everything in this area is not controlled by them. But sometimes it is. Usually you'll see that by certain markings on the taxiway ground. I don't know. So I usually am debatable because this basically means that it can possibly be considered a non-movement area. But I usually check with ATC before I start moving my aircraft or trying to push back, you know? So we're going to taxi via Zulu Yankee 11 down to runway 30. You gotta know your charts. If you don't know your charts, I highly suggest either adding them yourself, like I did here, where you can view them in here nice and quick. Because we're going down, we're right over here on this taxiway. Gonna turn left here, go down Zulu, straight down to Yankee 11, and onto runway 30 for departure going out. That's the plan. And, you can add more than one, obviously. There's a lot. Oops, I closed the wrong thing. Okay. You can also look up a live map here that shows you, well, if it loads, Shows you the taxiways, doesn't show you the names of the taxiways, but it shows you the concourse for like the terminal, as well as the runway numbers. Well, somewhere. I don't remember where it shows the runway numbers on this one. It's probably somewhere on here. I don't know. Whatever. But it literally maps out everything for you, including the airspace, all airports, waypoints, other stuff. It's important that you have that. It's really important. I don't bother with the route button. I only use the airport button over here for getting certain frequency numbers and whatnot here, because that's all it's really useful for. And yeah. So let's get taxiing down to the runway now. Hey Ein, how you doing? Now those runway turn-off lights that everyone questions, you only really turn them on when you're around a runway, like you're approaching a runway or gonna cross a runway or line up on a runway, whatever you're gonna do. If you're near a runway, turn those on. I'm not near a runway yet. I got a lot of taxiing to do, so I'm gonna leave that off. Basically, if I look out here on an outside view, you'll see that this is currently what is seen, right? It's not very lit on the side. It's not really visible that well. Then we throw these on, and you'll see that it's pretty noticeable. It's a lot brighter now, you know? It's a lot brighter. You know, a lot brighter in general, so you can definitely spot it now. That's what the runway turn-off lights are for. Now you'll also notice the landing lights are extremely bright. They're not only for people in front of you to see you, but for you to be able to see in front of you. They make things really bright. Yes. Only use those when you're actually below 10,000 feet airborne, or if you're taking off, I guess, like lining up on the runway for takeoff, whatever it means. Or if you're on a taxiway that's parallel to a runway and you're facing the inbound traffic and an aircraft is about to land on the taxiway you're on, basically flying straight at you, because that's happened before, and you might flash your landing lights on so they see, you know. Now, this aircraft has 2 landing lights. Other aircrafts have 4 landing lights. And some of them have a little cap on top of them that you can press to push all of them down. They don't have one to return them to the off position. You gotta do that yourself. I know. It's so annoying, isn't it? So, as we're taxiing down, they probably finished up their briefing in the cabin. You're probably gonna talk to them real quick, give them a nice... you know, just do that, why not? You know, just do our final checks in here, make sure everything's about set. You know, maybe even lock the flight deck door. Why not? The cockpit door can be locked.
What? That is... I mean, it makes sense. The door is 5G compatible.
Okay. I see what you're trying to do, but no. This is not funny. It just isn't. Now, this one I don't feel is really necessary, but you can do it if you really please. You can test this here, make sure it lights up by clicking this big black square, lights up the master caution and all that. You can also test it by going here and clicking the lights test button. It's a switch actually. You're gonna flip it to test, and every light in the cockpit will turn on. Everything. And I mean everything. Don't leave that on, otherwise you're going to be like, why is everything on? Why are there certain things that are in red? Why are there yellow things? I don't know. Well, it's because all of them are on for testing, so you can see. You know? And try very hard not to overspeed while the landing gear or the flaps are out, because I guarantee you, you're going to lose your flaps or your landing gear. Like, Gavin lost his nose wheel entirely on the 737-800 one time. And what did you do when that happened?
I may have pulled a bunch of red tabs in the floor that were labeled landing gear release.
Yes. Sure. That's totally what you'd immediately do when that happens. You want to assess the situation first, and you got to know what you're doing. You don't want to go start pressing buttons, pulling things and whatnot. Because if I start doing that, I might accidentally pull a landing gear up while on the ground. Or I might... what red tab are you even talking about at this point?
The one behind the co-pilot seat. There's a door on the floor.
I actually am not aware of that. Oh, there it is. That is the nose wheel release lever, but you gotta do something before you do that. Otherwise, it's just not gonna do anything.
So I didn't do whatever I needed to do before.
Yeah, because there's something you gotta disable that involves the hydraulic system. Otherwise, it's just gonna be locked in the current position it's in. So now that we're near a runway, let's get runway turn-off lights on. See, runway 30. I'm at Quebec. This doesn't feel right. Hold on. No, this is Yankee 11. Why does that say Quebec? Hold on. My brain. Yankee 11 goes here. Yeah, it goes here. Why is that labeled Quebec? Outdated. I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's not supposed to say Quebec. This is Yankee 11. So, there's no landing traffic from what I see. We have our TCAS enabled, which is from our transponder being active. I don't see any landing traffic on our radar either. So let's go ahead and get landing lights on and get on this runway and go, shall we? Now we can manually apply thrust, or we can have the plane apply thrust for us. The only thing that we really have to do is stabilize the thrust before we turn it on. So we'll go ahead and arm the auto throttle. It's not going to just go full throttle on us, obviously. We're going to keep lining up on the runway, check that there's no one coming from any direction that could probably be a problem for us, you know. So we're going to just, you know, line ourselves up here on the runway. Nice and easily. You know, take your time. Try to use as little runway as possible when lining up, because you want to at least be before or on top of the numbers when you're lined up on the runway. You don't want to be past the numbers when you're lined up on the runway. That's concerning unless it's a really long runway and your aircraft can do it. This aircraft can do it, yeah, but I usually try to stay behind this. Anyways, we're going to stabilize our thrust at 40% thrust. You'll see there's a blue arrow there. 40% thrust is our stabilizer. Aircraft's now rolling, and then we're going to select N1. And the aircraft will get the takeoff thrust needed automatically. Now you're just steering at the moment. And you're going to wait for your V1. When you hit V1, you're going to rotate, but you check 80.
80 knots.
Cross-check. Where's our V1? Oh, we didn't do our V1. Oops. Whatever. That's our V1 speed already.
Oops.
We forgot to go back. We forgot to go back and do that. So we're gonna go ahead and pull our gear up. It's a little late for that. I was gonna go back to it and be like, oh yeah, well that happens.
100.
So we're gonna climb out here. We're gonna go ahead and get the autopilot on to follow the route as programmed. Go ahead and bring some flaps up. We don't need flaps. We only need flaps for our takeoff, you know? After that, the plane will fly itself fine. Look at this. It's climbing out. I don't know why it just started descending. Start climbing, please. Watch the altitude. You know? You want to see everything that's going on. You don't want to stare at this and be like, this is all I need to see. And you also don't want to be that guy who's literally like this and can't see anything in the cockpit. You want to be able to see a little bit of everything. Like this. That's the good sign, because you can see your speed, your altitude, where you're going in general, and outside. Because sometimes the altitude and the speed are off here. Sometimes the nav is off too. You gotta look outside. Outside's where the stuff is going on. So we're gonna go ahead and move the gear to the locked position now. It's locked in the up position, and we're climbing through 5,000 en route. The autopilot's flying itself. Look at that. It's so simple, right?
No.
Fighting a pissed off turkey.
It's oh so simple.
I'm no longer fighting a pissed off turkey. Who's gonna watch the tutorial and then randomly hear me go, I'm fighting a pissed off turkey?
So Gab, don't forget about the V1 speeds, okay?
Okay.
I actually forgot about that because I was so busy explaining other stuff that I just never went back to set it up.
Now time to go rewatch this video entirely and figure out what to do.
Just don't forget the V1 speeds. I'm gonna have to add like a note somewhere for you.
In the
Like,
comment
hey,
section.
idiot.
I don't
forget
know.
to- I've already forgot what you said.
He's probably gonna do everything but the V1 speeds because I skipped over it on accident.
I'll remember the V1 speeds because I actually
you
haven't
won't.
forgotten those
No, you won't.
yet.
I have 0 pay.
That's why I just said yet.
You do the V1 speeds before starting the APU. Since we climbed through 10,000 feet, we're no longer below 10,000, so let's go ahead and turn the landing lights and runway turn-off lights off.
I'm making alcohol!
The taxi light should have been off immediately after you got off the ground when you pulled the gear up. And now you're just flying. Casual flight. It's going to climb to cruise altitude as programmed. Everything. As long as you have the right altitudes programmed in. If ATC told you to hold at a different altitude, you're going to fly that altitude. And then when they tell you to climb to another altitude, you're going to set it here. And the plane won't immediately start climbing from your current altitude to the next one. You're going to have to disable the VNAV and re-enable it. So if I set it to hold at, say, 15,000 feet, right there, it's going to climb to 15,000 feet and it's going to level off at 15,000 feet. You're going to see that happen. That sound is when it's within 1,000 feet of reaching the desired altitude. So it will automatically level off at the altitude that you selected. And say I were to say I want to continue my climb to 34,000 feet. Well, I set the number in here, but it doesn't seem to understand that I want to climb. It wants to hold at 15,000 like earlier. So what you gotta do, you gotta go over here, toggle the VNAV off and back on really quickly. And the computer will be like, oh, I need to start climbing again, okay. And it will start to climb. Simple, right? That's how computers work. If something's not working, you turn it off and turn it back on. And what do you know? It's working again. This thing's climbing at 6,000 feet per minute. That's kind of worrying. What's the climb angle? Oh my. That's an interesting climb pitch. I mean, to be fair, we're going 280 knots. About half the speed of sound almost. Probably.
Yeah.
Alright, we climbed through 18,000 feet. That's transition altitude. You'll see a yellow box appear around your altimeter. That means it's time to switch it to standardized mode by pressing the STD button. Now you gotta do this on all three of them, on the co-pilot side too, as you can see. You press it, and it'll say STD there now, and it's in green. You gotta do it on the center display too, but it won't be highlighted in yellow on the center display. You gotta click it right there on the blank button. Here you go. Simple. I know, it's so difficult. Ain't that right? It's so difficult.
You failed, Gab. You failed in every way.
While the
possible.
autopilot's active, don't make any sudden movements. Like, you could probably put a little bit of movement in. Actually, probably not. Because if you put too much movement, it cancels off the autopilot, as you just saw. If I do a little bit of this, the autopilot's off again. You gotta turn it back on, depending on what you did. The VNAV controls climb and speed. The LNAV controls your roll and, like, which way you're going. Now, if something bad starts to happen, like you start stalling or you're diving uncontrollably or something, the master switch for the autopilot will cut off automatically. I haven't had that happen in a very long time, so... But Gavin probably had a couple of times where that happened.
Not yet, thankfully.
Are you sure about that? I'm pretty sure there was at least one time that it happened.
Okay, there may have been once, but I know I haven't been using autopilot when it happened.
Well, yeah, you were trying to use autopilot to save you, and then it just turned off on
Oh
you.
yeah, it said no.
Because, of course, you were in a really bad maneuver already, stalling or whatever it was, I don't remember. I think it was a dive.
Ah, yes, I love that alcohol is considered a drug.
It is.
It is. Unfortunately, it's not legally considered that. I wish it was.
No, in my game, it's under the drug category.
No, I'm
Not
saying
under an-
legally, I wish it was. Silva's like, yes, it is. And then he immediately deletes it.
I mean, oh shit, I probably shouldn't say that.
Silva, it should be, but it, in a lot of the world, it really isn't. I'm gonna be real honest with you there.
Why is these things incapable of heating up the room?
Gav, I don't know why you're saying that in chat. I just realized. You said try to fly one with no experience. And I'm like, you've had experience. You're just absolutely awful at it.
You're just an idiot. It's really just that simple.
I remember the
No,
first
no,
one.
don't be rude to him. Come on, don't be rude to him. But at the same time, yes.
Yeah, don't call him a dick.
Oh,
but
and
at
I
the
remember-
same time, he's kind of a dick.
Oh God, Norton. Interesting. So
Nobody's having
because
a
we're not
holy
interested
shit.
in a full-time flight like we do on VATSIM, we're gonna speed up time a bunch, so don't bother with that. You're gonna notice us climb at a ridiculous rate and travel really fast and go way above cruise altitude.
If I
don't
were to
worry about that.
spam the master caution with like an auto clicker, would it cause a fault?
That's the same thing as saying, what if I press a button that does nothing while it's inactive?
feel it's really
Is
not
this
gonna do
gonna
anything.
do something? Is this gonna do something anytime soon? Maybe.
It might wear out the contacts that make it do something, but that's probably about it.
How about this thing? I don't know. Doesn't seem to be doing anything to me. Clearly it's fine. It really doesn't care unless it's certain things. The most times the thing I like to do that on is, you know, the one where you're trying to get the passenger's attention. You know, that one that's like so you spam it like this. And it's hilarious because everyone starts to freak out like, is he okay?
No.
Agreed.
I do hope my citizens don't get addicted to the alcohol.
So, let's go ahead and speed up time again, so we don't sit here for the next hour just flying, because I had to slowly explain everything for Gavin. So we're just gonna keep going, have time to speed up. We're gonna zoom out on our route here to see what's going on. We're gonna make a left turn here. So we're gonna slow it down so the aircraft can properly turn. That's beautiful. Aircraft's en route, en route, whatever you want to call it. It's on the route and in the route. You know? Meanwhile, we have consistent flow of fuel from both wings because we got that crossfeed on. Nice. They're identical in the weight and balance. Yes! Like this pointless button right here labeled parking brake. While in the air, this thing's absolutely pointless.
What are you gonna do? Parallel park midair?
You know,
Don't-
you say that, but he will find a way.
I
You want
will
me
find
to?
a way.
I will. I will do it right now. We're gonna do hard right roll and hard left rudder.
Bank angle. Bank angle.
Hold on. We're gonna let it figure out what it wants to do here as I try and perform this ridiculous maneuver. So basically, if you don't know what that does... Oh, we're going way too fast to do that, actually. I was basically doing a side slip, if anyone knows what that is. So we're
I know
gonna
what
tell it
that
to go
is.
back on course. And it should be fine. You know what a side slip is?
Yes.
Bing.
Basically Tokyo drifting a plane to
Yep.
lose altitude really fast.
And not gain speed or too much speed.
Exactly.
I know. It's been
I
proven to
usually
work
use that
pretty
on
well.
some steep approaches, but it's effectively like trying to fly in a crosswind.
Yes.
Effectively. It's fairly difficult. Fairly. Now I realized that my rudder wasn't working very well because, well, I forgot that it doesn't really like to work that well when you're going Mach 0.73. Yes, you heard me right. That's basically 3/4 the speed of sound.
Yeah, makes sense.
Why is 737 800 can go that fast?
Why not?
That's like asking me, why can a train travel as fast as this aircraft?
That's only in China.
The bullet train.
Yep.
That's like asking, though. That's like asking...
Although
I-
in China it makes
Silva,
sense because
Silva,
there's...
Silva. You want Mach 1? I can give you Mach 1. All I gotta do is go over here and be like, I want my speed to hit Mach 1. We hit Mach 1 for a solid second and it's dropping dramatically down. Once you get too fast, the airspeed just dies. It can't display anything anymore.
Alright, now we gotta pressure...
Same
oh,
thing
wait,
for
that-
altitude. If you get too high, which is pretty much impossible, it doesn't display anything on that display anymore. It just turns off. So anyways, let's speed up time again, shall we?
Okay, that lights everything up.
So you'll notice there's a little bit of turbulence today. Just a little bit. It's not a lot. It's not too bad at all. I mean, it's not like the engine's shaking.
Is the engine shaking?
I don't know. It's not shaking, it's fine. You know, it's completely fine. It's safe. You know, the maintenance crew was just working on it before this flight. It's fine. They were applying some tape to the they were applying some tape to the engine earlier, so everything's fine. Specifically duct tape.
We're experiencing some technical difficulties, so we're going to cut the engine. Rebooted it.
Yes.
Okay, I gotta find the video to show you, Megan. Glue probably is gonna get a laugh.
We're having problems with the engine. Let me just casually cut the engine off and reboot it. While that does work, you should probably turn your APU on before you do that, otherwise you're gonna lose power. I guarantee you that. You wanna see? Do you want to see? That's a yes or no question. It is possible to do that, but I don't recommend doing that because it's highly risky. Especially when you're traveling this fast. Probably. I don't know. I haven't tried that. I haven't tried cutting off an engine at cruise altitude going Mach 0.73. Because normally if an engine goes out or there's a bird strike or something, it usually happens below 10,000. Usually. Not above 30,000 feet. So I don't even think you could probably do it. Well, let's give it a shot. Let's give it our best shot, shall we?
YouTube videos, you can watch them when you walk down. You're about fly.
Since you and I both know Gavin wants to see this, why not? I'm gonna get the auto brake set just in case we don't have auto brake on our landing.
And I will tune into the stream so I can watch Gavin be an idiot.
Gavin,
What?
are you even paying attention?
I am following.
You
So
start your stream.
to do what Norden was mentioning, we're gonna turn the APU generator on for engine 2, the right side of the aircraft, and we're gonna cut engine 2. Well, we're gonna turn it off continuous, and we're gonna cut engine 2 off. And you'll notice it starts spooling down dramatically. And the plane's gonna start tilting and autopilot's reacting to that. Autopilot's actually doing fairly well maintaining everything. Look at that. That's autopilot doing that. So you'll notice the engine is off. We'd think that turning it off and turning it back on is gonna fix the issue, so let's put it back to the starter position and start it right back up. Because why not? And we're gonna boot it right back up. And look at that! Look at something about this feels alright to me. Oh, that's an over rev. That engine's gonna blow. Don't catch fire, don't catch fire, don't catch fire. Come on. We don't want to fire right now. Come on.
I do.
Okay, the rev's going down. Good. RPM's going back down. Okay, good. Good. The engine's fine. It's stabilized. And back to engine power. Cut that APU back off. We don't need it. Simple, right? But definitely don't try that. Clearly, there's issues that will happen if you do that. Eh. Anyways, let's fast forward again so we can talk about the approach. In fact, let's set up the approach right now, actually. So we're gonna go over here. We see our legs. We're gonna go all the way to the last page of it where it says our runway that we're landing on. And we're gonna see the waypoint just before it. It says 2,400 feet. That's our minimum altitude. We're gonna set our minimum altitude now. In fact, we were supposed to be descending for quite a while now. So I'm going to tell it to start descending now.
If you could see the chat right now, it's quite humorous.
We're going to go ahead and set our go-around heading, which is going to be just runway heading for now.
Hey, wait, I forgot I can do something. Where is it?
Usually there's something more complicated to do other than just runway heading. And then we're going to go over here and configure it a little bit. We got to set flaps 40.
You guys go.
And speed is going to be 125 knots for our current configuration of the aircraft. It's probably going to be a little bit of a different speed for you. Maybe less flaps too, I don't know. And it will also tell you the ILS frequency and the course heading of the runway. This one's more accurate. Use this one. The other one's a little bit outdated sometimes. The one's 0.35. We got to make sure there's a 5 right there. Now on the other side we got to do the same thing. Then we gotta set our course properly, because clearly it's not set properly. We're gonna set it on all the displays. Air conditioner error, I have no idea what that's about. We're off on our descent a little bit, but we're catching up, so I'll let the plane do its job. We need to get the current ATIS of our arrival airport, so what do? Well, let's go over here back to SimBrief, and we're gonna use the temporary one that they gave us at the start of our flight. Altimeter 3010, and we're gonna preset the co-pilot and the pilot altimeter to 3010. So when you pass 18,000 feet on your descent, it'll turn standardized mode off. Now the center one is finicky. You gotta turn it off and set it, and turn it on again. So when you turn it off, it will go right back there. So we're gonna go ahead and put that to 3010, like that. Oops, didn't mean to do that. And now, we're pretty much all good. Let's double check that runway 18 left is in use on the ATIS. Runway 18 left. Okay, here it is. Expect ILS approach, runway 18 left, 18 center, 18 right. Yep, we got the right runways. It's active. That's probably the most accurate thing you're going to be able to use for latest time. Unless you generate a new flight again on SimBrief, which is really annoying. I don't bother with it. Really, the only thing I bother with is if you're on VATSIM, tune in or talk to the controller or whatever. Figure out where you're going to be landing, like what runway and whatnot. You know, figure all that stuff out before you get there. So then we're going to arm the speed brake. You're going to pull it back just a tad to the armed position. And you'll see that green light pop on that says speed brake armed. The same one I was trying to show you earlier, but obviously you can't arm it when you're getting ready to taxi. Is the way these work is the moment it detects pressure on the wheels, it applies the speed brakes. Whereas RTO is like you're aborting your takeoff, you just turned on reverse thrust. Speed brakes automatically deploy for that. You don't have to arm it for an aborted takeoff. Sometimes you might need to manually deploy them. Most times not. It's a little finicky. You'll see we're flying beautifully into our destination. We have quite a bit of waypoints left on our flight. We're going to speed up time again, because neither of us want to sit here for several hours again.
Nope.
Passing 18,000 feet. Let's bring it back to real time. Turn standardized mode off on that. Turn it off on this one. And turn it off on this one. I know. There's so much to do.
There is.
It's real hard, isn't it?
It doesn't look that difficult to me when you actually understand what it is.
Yeah, it's really simple to me. I'm literally looking at this like I'm bored to the point where I'm like, I can't believe I have to explain this.
Well,
You
it's
know?
because people like Gavin exist.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of people like that, to be honest, so...
Actually, after you get done, I think I'll start an activity and we can all watch those videos I sent you, Blue, because they're quite humorous.
Oh boy.
Because they have a few more jokes than just plain jokes.
Well, it appears Achilles' heel is in our approach today. I'm joking. I'm heavily joking about that. Because we got heels as a waypoint on our approach for the runway. And the runway's basically right there. It's going to be at that heading. And you'll just kind of monitor this to see when you should be starting your descent, to be honest, when you'll be reaching certain altitudes, other stuff, which waypoints you're passing next, and how far away you are from them, because it actually has a live counter for how far away you are from certain ones. And some of them only display once you pass the previous waypoint, like this one. Right, so the plane should still be flying itself if you haven't messed with anything till now. You'll notice that we're about to start descending below 10,000 feet. When we do so, I turn on all the landing lights, the runway turn-off lights, and the taxi light. Even though the taxi light only is really on when the landing gear's down, I turn it on anyway so I don't have to bother with it when I pull the gear down. But I only do that when I get below 10,000. So let's speed up time again. Silva, have fun in Greece. That's a great experience, honestly. There's a lot of people who would want to do that, but like, they just don't get the chance. Free Robux ads. Oh man.
Fine clone here until you get done.
Mm-hmm.
With having to explain idiots how to play a game.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not even sure if I want to read that one.
What's it say? Because I'm curious now.
Okay, descending below 10,000 feet. We're gonna go ahead and get those lights on. Simple. And then we're gonna go tell them we're 10 minutes out. Pressing that button. Now it feels so empty here. It's either that or it's cloudy. It looks like it's cloudy though, judging by the fact there's some weird shading everywhere. Yeah, it's cloudy. Like, it looks empty today. Is that a plane? No, that's a star. Why is that so bright? Dang. This looks like another plane. I got worried. I was like, is that landing lights? No, it's not. I mean, we are at 8,000 feet. So, whatever. That's technically the call flight attendant button, but it also alerts the passengers as well to get their attention. It basically gets everyone's attention, basically. But it's specifically labeled the flight attendant call button. Attend. So now that we're descending below 8,000 feet, we're going to start decelerating a little bit more. Since we're below 10,000, we're no longer above 250 knots. We're going about 230 knots, which shockingly is about 0.4 Mach. Mach 0.4, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward again. Now over to heels. At about 6,000 feet, still descending. Gonna level off at 6,000 and continue descending after our little turn here. Now, if you start dumping flaps anytime, the plane will automatically reduce to a really low speed that you probably don't want. So, when you're gonna start doing that, turn on the speed intervention, whatever you want to call it. It's labeled SPD INTV. Right here, it's a button to the right of the knob for speed. Set the speed to whatever you need it to be, like I set it to 200 knots, and I start to drop flaps out. I know, crazy. We're getting flaps out on our approach. Those flaps are oh so important to land.
Finally, a tutorial.
You need
that
the
doesn't
drag,
take
you need the
centuries to
slowness.
learn.
What, mine?
Yes. Thank you for making this video tutorial.
Yes, what do you know? The aircraft's auto-trimming itself with the autopilot. The autopilot's doing stuff for us. It's doing work. You'll notice that because we configured the ILS properly, you'll see the diamonds start to line up properly as you near your approach pattern, your profile, whatever, I don't know. So we're gonna let it continue to straighten out and get on the approach here. We're gonna start dropping some more flaps, reduce that speed to 180 knots. Flaps 15 has been selected. And you can see the beautiful top of the clouds here as we go by. Might be a little hard for y'all to see. It's probably really dark for y'all. You want to mine them. Oh wait, diamonds. Okay. I was like, you want to mine the clouds? That would be interesting.
Alright, APU time.
Oh yeah, those diamonds. Okay. So now that we're really configured, it looks like there's a lot of stuff going on every single screen here, right? Oh, we should probably turn this thing to approach mode by pressing the approach button. You can turn it to localizer only by clicking it again, and turning it off by clicking it one more time. But let's click it back to approach mode because we want that. We want to see our diamonds here. Just in case this screen fails, we'll have that screen just in our view here to see it. And you'll be able to see the runway already. We're already below the clouds. That's awesome. Oh wait, no we're not. We're just in a clear patch.
Okay, SimBrief is actually a lot simpler to use than I thought it was.
I know, it's so hard.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Like, if you actually take time to learn it, it's actually not that bad. It's a lot easier than just doing it on your own in the game.
Sure is. So as we're coming in here, we're gonna go ahead and bring the gear down nice and early, just before our final. We're gonna watch that gear come out from this angle here. Look at that. It's beautiful. That gear comes down. And we should have 3 green lights. Yay, they're all locked in place. Gear down 3 greens, that's what it is.
That's what we like to see.
Pretty sure the co-pilot voice actually sounds telling you gear down 3 greens. It literally tells you that, I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
I can't tell if that's the co-pilot.
It is supposed to be the co-pilot.
Because it sounds more
The co-pilot
robotic.
makes a lot of those callouts.
Alright.
Like the 80 knots and the V1. Well, actually not the V1. The V1...
The V1's the pilot.
The V1's the computer system.
Oh.
So now that we're nearing our final approach here, we're just gonna turn on the approach mode button and turn on autopilot B. Don't turn off autopilot A, because now the autopilot will take over the approach. You'll reduce your speed to final approach speed, which my aircraft is 125 knots, and you'll start dumping the mother load of flaps. All the way down to 40.
Flaps 40.
And you'll notice how short of a final I pulled on this runway today. Normally you have a much longer final, at least 10 miles. We have about a 5-mile final. Yeah, 5 miles. Normally you have about 10 to 20 miles. 10 to 20 miles for a final average. Like, the average final is about that much. But no, here, I'm doing a 5-mile final. It's fine. You can tell the plane is flying it. We're matched on the diamonds, on the glide slope, on the localizer. The plane's a little bit to the right of the localizer, but it's correcting itself. Everything's nice and level. It has the single capture, single channel.
Is the PAX like air conditioning or something? That's what it sounds like. I don't know.
Oh god, this song is difficult. Question's harder.
I don't know why, but I really like going outside when it's night. I don't know. It just hits me way different. I don't know why.
1,000.
Too fast. Too fast. Approaching 1A left. Too fast. Too fast.
So then you're gonna do this. Simple. You're gonna let the plane go. You hit 500 feet. If the approach doesn't have a crosswind, turn the auto throttle off. If it does, wait till like the last second to turn the auto throttle off.
300.
Remember when the autopilot slammed you into the ground first time?
Oh, sometimes it likes to do that even nowadays. It doesn't matter. The autopilot likes to do that every now and then. It either does smooth, buttery
200.
landings or it does something close to Ryanair. It's random.
Cabin lighting.
100.
And you just gotta prepare to pull reversers the moment you touch down. So,
50. 40.
30 feet,
30.
bring the thrust to idle,
10.
and let her touch. Okay. Oh, okay, that was a little bit bad.
That's not
Reversers
the-
green.
Whoa, Jesus.
Reversers are deployed. There's a little bit of wind I'm seeing.
I don't know why, but aircraft cabin looks much nicer at night. It does. Let me look at KBNA's airport diagram.
And the rest of it's for you to figure out. I mean, it's not that hard. It's literally just taxi to the gates. Pull your flaps up before taxiing. Turn off your landing lights. You know, turn the auto brake off. General stuff like that. Getting off the legs page because there's nothing left there for you. Yeah, that type of stuff. Simple.
Alright, just switch my...
I'm not really gonna bother with that stuff because, well, that's just for the tutorial here. Anyways, we don't talk about Ryanair landings. No. It's
No, we
the
do talk about Ryanair
737. It's
landings.
not specifically Ryanair, but Ryanair is most well known for that because their entire fleet is mainly 737s.
They have like one other aircraft, I forgot what it was though.
That's why it's most well known for Ryanair. But the 737 is known for its generally fairly rough landings. I mean, it's made for that.
It's made to be like the most versatile aircraft.
Unlike the Cessna Skyhawk, it's not made to be treated like a 737 where you slam it down like Ryanair. Because Gav did that with a Cessna Skyhawk already.
I did. I was training to be a
He's already
Ryanair
committed a
pilot.
sin. Sin that cannot be forgiven. Brother.
Yeah, it's the same sin as deciding I'm gonna go full throttle on a taxiway.
I did that once in flight line.
I don't think I can even make the turn like that. Ugh, okay, I can.
Caution. On taxiway. On taxiway.
Where's the gate?
Okay, 20 knots taxi speed's a little fast.
I don't know. 120 knots is better, right?
Jesus Christ. To be funny, you know, I should set the autopilot because it says it's gonna be a 40-minute flight, and you said this map's 1-to-1, right? So it'll take 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I should go take a shower whilst the autopilot does its thing, and see how that ends.
Well, you don't really want to do that while on VATSIM.
No, not on VATSIM. This is more single-player related type stuff.
Alright. Well, that's about it for today.